as you know, here at the 1T.R.E radio show, we are dedicated and motivated and deeply, deeply committed to the mission of bringing true revolutionary, evolutionary thought processes. So I know if you're listening under my voice and if you are paying attention on this show, you are one of those people who definitely think outside of the box. You don't look at the world through those program norms that, you know what I mean, that simply have been projected upon us and been programming us for years and years. You look also into your godliness and you ask the question why. And you look at what not only is and you look to what can be. So with all those thoughts in mind, we are starting episode 5 with a brand new topic. Yes, episode 5 of the 1T.R.E show. And the brand new topic of discussion is going to be group economics. Yes, absolutely. Group economics. Now, group economics, man, I'm telling you, it's going to be a major cornerstone. I feel like when we talking about no more the relationships between man and woman, but the relationships between humanity as a whole, you know what I mean? We delve in and we dive in and we look at group economics from a place of, you know what I mean, where we all should be interested in the notion of working together with one another to create an economic stability that, I mean, that, like I said, it surpasses that old of what we were taught and programmed to think. Like, for instance, as I think of that concept of marriage, you know what I mean? When you strip away the actual fact that it is a contract involved and that these two people that are entering into that legally binding contract, no, not only are they making a contract to the state that they're living in, they're also making a contract that themselves they repeat to their higher power. And in that contract, of course, there are consequences on both sides. You know what I mean? So on that side, what we talking about to the state, and as far as a legally binding type of issue, you know what I mean? You have to pay someone, or you might have a great loss when it comes to separating yourself from someone in that marriage, that legal marriage bond that we all practice in the Western civilization. Also on top of that, like I said, when you're looking at that spiritual side, you know what I mean, you dedicating yourself to this person and you saying these vows to them to God, and now that you holding all of this angst and anxiety to keep that bond and realizing and maybe not realizing that life is about change, and like I said, in a journey that's all your own, and who knows what you may experience on that journey, excuse me, and you do not want, I don't think anybody wants to be on their journey and to be experiencing life on their journey and to have a circumstance in their journey now be such of an impact that now it affect their livelihood. So back again, bringing in group economics and how that I see, if you take away all of those structures from that legally binding marriage that we practice in the Western civilization, it really is a great framework for group economics. And as I dig deeper, let me further explain. So, if I take the concept of a man and a woman, and they now bring offspring into the world, and you have that man and woman, and that offspring now, they have all of the tools necessary to build a home and to build what we call a family. And in that family, it behooves that family to bring every bit of income necessary, all of the resources that they can possibly build into that family unit. Now, in that family unit, typically what I've saw and I've seen taught in the Western civilization is that there comes a certain point in that family unit where those offspring now are expected to leave, and then now and these offspring now go start their separate family units. And like I said, the family unit and that concept of marriage, when you take away all of the legal binding things and having to pay for somebody to get rid of you and all of that good stuff, you know, when you take away all of those negative frameworks, yes, it starts well, but the problem I definitely see is as we progress in life, as families start to build and progress in life, we get into this habit of, like I said, the offspring go on their own, and they now, say for instance, if you have an offspring that were in a home, and this family owns a home, and this is a on the lowest end, let's say a $100,000 home, and this home is worth $100,000, and everybody was bringing everything into this home, and now we get to the point where, okay, it's not enough room. Instead of leaving out, it seems like it would behoove a family to, okay, this family is going to grow. As this family grows, let our domicile grow. And then we now, as a family unit, we take this money and we continue all of those resources in, and we increase our domicile, allowing now for that freedom and that growth that's needed and that separation that's needed, you know what I mean, and still practice a greater level of group economics. And as, say, the offspring do marry, or they do get significant others in their life, you know what I mean, in a serious way, you know what I mean, now, because you have a family where, like, okay, it's a family of six, and the children are living in the home. It's not where we looked bad upon because you're still living at home with your parents, but we have an estate here that we're building. And in this estate that we're building, it behooves the family to stay together and pool those resources, because we can live better as a unit instead of living apart. Now, like I said, in this Western civilization, it's usually taught that, like I said, the offspring leave. And now, okay, you got a family that $100,000 home over here, but now these kids go out, and of course they want to do better, so they go. Each kid go out, and you separately get a $200,000 home, and this other kid get another $200,000 home, and now between three people in the same family unit, you have about $500,000 in basically debt, because there's no ownership. You know what I mean? In that, you know what I mean? They call it ownership, but you're actually still renting with that mortgage. Now you have three separate entities in a family where now it appears to be success, and it appears to be the ideal thing to do, but what if all three of you were in a $500,000 domicile that was big enough to sustain you all in a family unit and give you that privacy and freedom you needed to live your life, and then you could definitely retain more of your economics. You know what I mean? I don't even know. I don't even totally agree with that ideal of at 18. You know, and we have this ideal of where the offspring are supposed to be grown now, and you leave and go to college and go off and you live on your own and practice living on your own. It's really almost like a marketing scheme by banks and financial institutions and insurance agencies and all of those big conglomerates, to market that to you as the American dream in such a way, and to make it look so attainable. Because when we look at the eras of the past, as for the 40s and the 50s and 60s, I'm understanding now, and as I'm living in the current era, how this inflation and recession stuff works. It's almost like we paying for the sins of the father, with air quotes. I'm saying that because it was a time in the 40s and 50s where these rates, interest rates, and the dollar and the price of the dollar, okay, was stronger. But what happened with Federal Reserve, and you know what I mean, to put it all in a synopsis, in a small paraphrase, this Federal Reserve, you know what I mean, in order to retain what it retains in a current generation, it has to now, I guess, push this capitalistic system forward. And by that I mean whatever good benefits and how the house rates were in the 50s, you know what I mean, that was because this capitalistic system in the Federal Reserve formed some type of framework where you can use recessions and inflation to now push these future rates, or these affordable rates and the prices for these affordable rates to a later generation, if I'm paraphrasing that correctly. And by pushing these rates to another generation, it allows inflation now to insist, and so every generation things now start to get more expensive. But in the current generation, you can now enjoy a certain luxury in life without suffering for it now, that we know that your children will pay for it later. And so in that capitalistic system, it's very misconstrued to me, and it's very not beneficial for a great family unit. So looking outside of that, and like I said, going back into group economics, and how that can definitely benefit a family in a way to where like you can now change your mindset and you can actually own more as a family unit. And as your family grows, like I said, that concept of marriage as a framework, if you now commit yourself to someone, and now you go out and you and that person, you form your own vows, right? And you say to yourself, I'm going to be with you under these type of constraints, and I'm going to be with you under these type of constraints. And say if we don't work out, you know what I mean, this is going to be, you're not going to be, your livelihood is not going to be affected to the way you can't live. This amount of money or this amount of resources is going to be set up for you, still in the case that you feel like your journey may be going to in another direction. I mean, I've seen examples in families that aren't necessarily from a Western civilization, and they come to the Western civilization, and because, you know what I mean, they feel like, okay, they are not in their native land, they bring their families in, and they form that tight-knit family group. And by the end of it, it may be like 10 to 12 family members, but man, that home is almost like a castle. And with 10 to 12 people bringing all of the resources in and maintaining and making a self-sufficient type unit, it doesn't feel like a strain. You know what I mean? I think there's a group of people in the United States that grow to think that, okay, it's a level of success to sit here and sit on $1 million mortgage. You know what I mean? And have to pay that all by yourself. Even if you, let's say you're making $1 million a year. Let's say you're pulling down that type of money. You know what I mean? The fact that you can just now splurge and do that by yourself is a blessing. But setting that example, I think a lot of people look to that example and they say, well, shoot, if they do it, then I can do it too. I can maintain and I can live this American dream too. But like I said, is it really worth it? You know what I mean? In a typical environment, say if you're a person making a great income, that's a 30-year mortgage. And that 30-year mortgage, can you definitely say you know that your life is going to be in a consistent manner where you're making a certain income for 30 years? What if you get damaged? What if you encounter some type of injury? What if there's a significant event in your life that makes you now want to change up your whole way of living? But my point is, the fact of having a nice home is not unforsaken or just a misguided notion, no. But the fact of, which leads me out of this a little bit out of group economics, this whole concept of generational wealth, it sort of bothers me, right? And it bothers me to the point to where, like this, if you have a certain set of people, let's say your grandmother, right, and your grandmother had a property at a certain time in America, and in that property she worked hard and she paid for that property and she left it now to her offspring. And her offspring now, because they're living in this America and they get receiving programming, they may pay on the house and work on the house, and they may start and do what they call a refinance and try to get money out of the house instead of putting that money in the house back into the house and revitalizing the home. They refinance it and they buy cars, they buy nice things, you know, and go on trips and vacations and what have you. And then as the time goes by, the house is still is owned by the family. But now that set of people go on, and now we pass it down to these children. And now, what if you're in a state where these young kids, they don't have that same value in the property? You know what I mean? It's 2024. They don't have the same value. They want to live in something new. So they go back to the bank and they make a deal with the bank. Okay, I'll sell you this property at a reduced rate. And now I want to go live over here in a nicer part of town. And so I get back to my point about this generational wealth. As far as like grandmama, she thought she was doing something and having a property that now her children could go on and live forever, and they would not have to go through that whole concept of buying a home and going through that again. But in actuality, it seems like to me like the house, which is the bank, always wins. It's like it's some type of way it always goes back to the bank. And definitely the bank doesn't seem like waiting. The bank does not seem like, hey, I'll wait 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Like the bank is like at some point I'm going to get that property back. And who owns the bank? I mean, we all know who owns the bank. We all know who owns the bank. You know, what I mean, if you don't know who owns the bank, just a little bit of research on the internet will definitely reveal that to you. So, back to my concept of group economics. So, knowing that there are higher powers and that there are structures in place that can also derail this whole concept of an American dream, group economics to me is vital to any community. Right now, it seems like we living in a time where everybody want to live in opulence. You know what I mean? Everybody is traveling, having a great time, living on money. But it's, to me, in my opinion, it's definitely, I think, it's a lifestyle that's built on credit. It's not a lifestyle actually built on actual worth, actual resources that have been attained and gathered and been and dispensed through family units to where like each one of these family units are feeling good about themselves and they're holding their heads up high and they know they all have a home. You know what I mean? It seems like a lot of this opulent lifestyle is predicated upon fear. Like, you know, well, I'm gonna go ahead and miss a couple of car payments, but I gotta go. You know what I mean? To go on this vacation, or I'm gonna go ahead and skip. You know what I mean? A few payments here and be late here, but I got to go do this. And it's like we live this life thinking that okay, yeah, because I can afford a mortgage. You know what I mean? For 30 years now, I can do that. I'm better now than someone who is in an apartment or that may be paying rent. I think, like I said, a lot of these marketing tools, a lot of this programming has started, it creates hierarchies that are really fictitious hierarchies. Because I understand in life there are hierarchies, but a lot of hierarchies are created around a concept that's definitely fictitious. So if it's a dream that's being marketed to you, so if there's a hierarchy in a dream, meaning that the bigger and the better your house is, the better you are. It just means that, you know what I mean, that's the more credit that you're willing to get yourself in. And like I said, I definitely don't like to signify a certain group of people, but I like to speak to a lot of people. You know what I mean? A lot of people have really never really had a lot of money. You know what I mean? Even right now in the world, I mean, the amount of billionaires is very minuscule, and the amount of millionaires, you know what I mean, is relative to this stock market and the things that we have out here. Because a lot of money is not liquid money. A lot of people are valued at a value that the stock market inflates, or that, you know what I mean, is predicated upon, like I said, this capitalistic system. That a lot of this stuff is made up and fictitious, but these numbers, they say don't lie, but these numbers can be misconstrued and they can be misleading. So a lot of the perceived value is really not what it is. It's really not realized, I should say. So like I said, a lot of people, whether it be immigrants that came to this country and they worked their way to now they can have home ownership and they built these families, or whether it be people that were here already in this country and they were already a part of the fabric of this country that we live in now, we call America. Whether it be any of those people, a lot of these people, they never really had a lot of money, because the interactions with people and just the contact of human nature was more important. Human bonding and working together and building civilizations was the business of all of that. So it leads me to now, like I said, we live in a time to, like, it's been marketed that yes, now we don't have to live that no more. We're sophisticated. We're in technological times, and you know what I mean. And we're very advanced, and now, yeah. Normally, when a family of four would definitely take one vacation a year and save their money. Now it's marketed to you like, hey, you can take 2 or 3 vacations a year. You know what I mean? Go in more debt. You know what I mean? You don't have to live poor. You know what I mean? That's poor when you living like that. You know what I mean? If you can't afford it, just say it. You know what I mean? Now you see regular people buying opulent designer clothing, and you know what I mean, to where I remember a time, you know what I mean, when I was younger growing up, you know what I mean, to spend $1,000 on a pair of shoes is like you had to be considered rich. But they're regular working 9 to 5 people that are living an opulent life, and they're participating in these type of things. And like I say, everybody likes quality, but a lot of times this isn't even about quality. It's about just the perceived value of quality. And like I said, that value isn't always what you perceive it to be. So like I said, man, group economics is a perfect segue to get out of a programmed way of living to where like an individual thinks that even if I'm not in a family unit, I mean, I don't have to sit here and I don't have to live up to the sort of dream of living in a big home by myself just to say that I have accomplished the American dream. Like, and even if I accomplish that with a lady and me and her live and we have a family, it seems almost like that's the end of the line. It's like once you have the house, you have the kids, everybody's in school, you pay bills, you come home at night, you come home at night and you just lay down, you go to bed, and that's it. You do that for till you retire, and then you retire, you travel, you buy all type of nice things, and then like I said, you perceive of this whole generational wealth thing. You pass it to your kids, but like I said, in hopes that it stays in your family. Who knows? And you start hearing later on life about wills aren't good. You're supposed to have trust, and then you know what I mean. And you got to do this with your estate, and this could be a contested. It's like you got to do so many things to protect your lifestyle that you've been told that if you just work hard and lace up your bootstraps, that you can definitely that pursuit of happiness is allowed to you. And yeah, the pursuit is definitely loud, but is allowed. But that actual achievement, to me, like I said, now we have to go into our higher sense, right? We have to go into our higher, more evolved sense and look at each other and say, okay, look, it's easy, like I said, to pay bills. But what can you and I, as two people with the Spirit of God in us, do now? Is that all this meant for us to do and just come into life in the perception of value, and we just live in this sort of matrixy type of way, and we really don't concentrate ourselves on the business of the day, which is bonding with our counterparts and making civilizations that are definitely in line with prosperity and helping one another instead of degrading one another and placing other on hierarchies that are definitely not conducive to positive relationships amongst humanity. Now, as we continue to just ponder those elements, I just want to set up a framework for my next show where I continue to delve into and looking at some of the barriers that are preventing group economics. But I want to get back, like I said, to the business of bonding. The business of, for one, there's a concept that I'm going to go in my next show about how education and what starts as education, and that education now moves you, your emotion, your education now dictates what you are emoted, how you move in life. And how you move in life would determine what you now have as a change in life. That would now motivate your change in life. So I want to set up a framework for this group economics and how we can, like I said, continue to look at the barriers, and we can further now uncover some of the hidden mysteries of ourselves and how figuring out how to love ourselves, for one, educating ourselves how to love ourselves and find out who we truly are. And then once we find out who we truly are, we can then now appreciate our humankind that surround us and the nature that is around us. And we can truly love someone and truly want the best for them. So until next show, 1T.R.E just wanted to say, hey, everyone under the sound of my voice, thank you so much. Subscribe, like, dislike, but please give me your feedback. Tell me what you think. Tell me how 1T.R.E is inspiring you now to maybe look into new concepts, to maybe now start new talking points. Or do you agree, or even like I said, disagree with me? Whatever the case may be, 1T.R.E is here to have the conversation. So until next show, show number 6, you all stay and take care out there.